Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar on how to produce relevant and engaging multifamily social media in record time. I'm Amanda. I'm one of our special content specialists at Respage, and I focus on developing custom social media content for properties.
And I'm Lindsey. I'm the marketing manager here at Respage, and I focus on content creation and social media. We have a packed agenda for you today. We are going to talk about how to create an efficient process for social media management that works for you and your team. We're going to go over some content ideas that's going to help keep your social media profiles fresh and engaging. We're going to talk about some of the ways that we here at Respage work through some creative blocks, because we all have had those days where that creative mindset is just not coming naturally. So we have a few tricks up our sleeves to help you work through that. And we're also going to give you some tips and tools to keep it all organized, because we all know processes like this are not sustainable if you cannot keep them organized. And that's, one of the biggest things that we focus on here. So as we go through this, if you have any questions, there will be a question mark with a chat bubble on the interface. So please feel free to ask any questions throughout, and we will get to a Q&A at the end. So without further ado, we'll just jump right in. Amanda here works with our clients every single day, promoting their properties with social media posts. So Amanda, can you just tell us a little bit about why you think social media is so important for multifamily?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to start by saying that I'm really glad that we're talking about the why here. I think the popularity of this webinar essentially shows that we know about its importance, but to explain the meaning behind it, I really like to think of social media as a storefront. And this example kind of goes like, let's say that a friend of yours recommended a business that's around the block, and you thought, hey, I'm going to go check it out. So as you take this walk, you go on by and you notice it. The lights are on, but you're so turned off by the dirty windows, its chipping paint, and the out-of-date decor of this business that you just continue on, assuming that your friend must have meant somewhere else. And I really like to think of this storefront as your unkept social page. The dirty windows and the chipping paint are the lack of new content, and the out-of-date decor is whatever last social trend that was posted about and has yet to be updated or replaced. So even though it has positive reviews, your friend recommended it, you walked by. And you can kind of ask yourself, as I'm sure your potential patrons would ask, if you're not maintaining your online presence, what else are you not maintaining?
Exactly. Maintaining an active online presence is crucial, especially considering the upcoming generational shift we're going to see in apartment living. Currently, we are in the beginning stages of welcoming a new generation into adulthood, and the future benchmark for multifamily marketing is going to be Generation Z. Gen Z cares about connections within the community. They don't necessarily want to be sold. So not only is it important for you to have this clean storefront that's up to date, but it also needs to be stocked with authentic goods and authentic content to really attract this new generation of apartment renters. So as we look into the future of multifamily marketing, especially on social media, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about what other changes do you expect to be coming down the pipeline as Generation Z and these new renters become the larger target in the rental market?
I think something that we're seeing, whether we like it or not, is this platform shift from static content to more video focused content like you would find on TikTok and Reels. But that's not to say that traditional Facebook and Instagram content is going away anytime soon. And we're still focusing on those industry giants based on current trends. However, this process that we're discussing today is not really platform specific. Something that I think is really cool about social media is that great content has this malleability to it that can be stretched and used on different platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my favorite parts about social media. You can repurpose content in so many different ways. And especially for me, when I get stuck on, what to post when I'm having one of those days where my creativity is just not at its peak, it's so nice to know that I can create one piece of content and repurpose it in so many different ways. And I think once you get that process down, you really start thinking in that repurposing mindset, it becomes so much easier to manage social. Another issue that we see frequently is busy leasing staffs just simply don't have the time to devote to social media, in addition to all of the more immediate tasks that they have to deal with. How many times has a leasing professional, had the phone ringing off the hook, a tour waiting in the lobby, a resident trying to make a maintenance request, in addition to having to think about what they're going to post on social media that day. We've heard issues with, not being creative enough, not being able to think of ideas and what to post, how to get residents to engage in their social media. So I think at the basis of this all, the one biggest problem is making the process more efficient. For me, I think thinking of fresh ideas is where I often get stuck. So Amanda, as somebody who does this every single day for hundreds of clients, how do you come up with your ideas?
I think an issue that a lot of people get stuck on is this concept that your social media pages are kind of like a stage of sorts, whereas, you have to develop so much content that it'll feel like you're performing. But instead, I really like to think of social media as a conversation in order to generate ideas. We don't really talk to people like we're performing. We talk to each other as a means to exchange information. So thinking in this mindset, how would you talk to a prospective resident that came into your property or a tenant that you see more often than your extended family? You can have these conversations like telling someone about an amenity that you really like in the community or an event going on next weekend. And you can build content out of these conversational ideas.
Yeah, I love that. I remember one of the first things that I was taught as a social media manager was to simply talk like a human. It was a really easy rule to stick to, because you just think about the kind of content that you personally would want to see, if you are a prospect or a resident. How would you interact with someone you're meeting in your community lobby for their first time, or maybe at a coffee shop around the corner? I think getting into the mindset of this conversational tone can be difficult sometimes, especially if you're diverting from a process that you know and love. But for most times for me, looking at one or two really good examples can kind of snowball into a long list of ideas. So we're going to provide you with a few examples of everyday posts that have really resonated with us from our own feed, because finding inspiration from others is a great idea to get that ball rolling. Having a long list of ideas and inspiration in your pocket for a rainy day or one of those days where it's not so creative is only going to help this process move faster and keep it more sustainable.
Yeah, perfect. So let's show you guys some examples of everyday social media content. So as we take a look at these, you can kind of see that there's nothing really inherently special about these posts, but they all have a meaning behind their meaning. So when you see a dog park, like in this first picture with hashtag pet friendly, a prospect will immediately know that their dog is allowed. Whether, when you have 70% of US households with a pet, this post is a welcome mat for those families. And then if we move on to Kingsbury Plaza, I absolutely love this caption, get fit without the gym membership. Like that's an immediate incentive that someone can grab onto and know that, I'm going to save money if I move into an apartment complex with a gym. And then lastly, I love this post. Like, who really wouldn't want to jump into that pool? But I kind of doubt that a professional photographer, scheduled the time to come at sunset and take that. So I think that was just an opportunity waiting to take this. But I think we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to some of these images, talking about amenities is a great way for you to kind of get into the mindset of what prospects and residents will want to see. When thinking about, at least personally, when I am trying to find a new place to live, I am comparing multiple properties. So, as somebody who's trying to sign more leases and attract more prospects, what about your amenities will set you apart from the competition? What do you think your prospects will want to see? And post that. Putting yourself into the mindset of a resident or a prospect is huge when it comes to posting about the best things about your community.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I think it's really also really important to show, where people are going to be spending 90% of their time. So if you give the people an opportunity to look into their actual homes, this is an incredible, viewpoint for them. Show them what a home looks like, give them some decor ideas, show them what the possible view outside of their windows is going to be. These are the kinds of things that people want to see because it's what affects them the most. and mesh these with social media's capabilities. If you look at ZRS over here at the very end, they use this carousel because it's well liked within Instagram. And it's a great way to show kind of like a walkthrough of their entire community. I really love that.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, Instagram automatically boosts some of the posts that use more of their platform tools, like carousels, videos, reels, location tags. Not only will Instagram automatically boost these up higher within their algorithm, so more people will see and engage, it also helps your local SEO if you are using some of these location tags and some of the other platform tools.
Amazing. Yeah. Uh, but moving on to our next one as well. Something I really love to do is welcome new residents to properties. Um, and what I really want to show here is this first post that you see. I think that, Cherry Hill Properties did an amazing job with welcoming their new residents without using their names, and they also gave them uh, events and notable dates to jot down. Like, this is the kind of information I think people really want to know, especially after moving and potentially not knowing many people within their community.
Yeah, and another thing I really love about this post is they're welcoming new residents, providing them with an opportunity to meet new people and to engage within the property while also respecting their privacy. You know, that second example is phenomenal if you have residents that would like to be on social media, but sometimes that's not the case. So if you still want to get your residents involved while also respecting their privacy, this Cherry Hill Properties example is a wonderful way to do that.
Yeah. And I think there's like a higher likelihood of renewing leases when people make at least one friend within their community. So there's also an incentive behind this as well.
Mhm.
So lastly, we want to show you some of like the team members within your communities. Residents love to know the people within their apartments. So being able to show them and introduce them to team members around is an incredible way to just, connect this community.
Yeah, exactly. And if you really want to cultivate a really great community culture, that also needs to include your staff as well. You know, I'm sure we're all aware of, staffing struggles recently within multifamily. So, shining a light on your team, will not only help residents feel more comfortable when they see maintenance staff or, somebody else on your staff walking around their property to have a friendly face, but it's also going to, show your team that they're appreciated and how much they're loved within the community.
Yeah, I think these last two posts are really great examples of authentic content that residents and prospects want. But what's really cool is having an on-site team. When there's someone around the community, there are plenty of opportunities to collect pictures and videos around you. And I think Lindsay can touch on this a little bit more, but the more authentic, personal the content is, the more likely it is to perform well and, uh, be enjoyed by the community. This content gives residents and prospects a little more personal connection to the community without seeing it as a standard stock image. And I wish that I had like this opportunity to go around and collect these pictures. But the next best thing that I can really do is bother my clients for it. But keeping this in mind, I understand that it's hard to devote time to collect all this content. So my best tip would be to, if you have a routine walk that you go on to take a little break, or you have a few extra minutes at lunch, take 30 minutes, take an hour, collect loads of pictures and videos, and suddenly you have all of the raw materials that you need for a week or a month's worth of content.
Yeah, having that stockpile of assets and images from around your community is really going to make this process so much easier. So we're going to move on and talk about some examples of authentic content. You can see some examples here from some areas that we saw on our own social pages. Take photos at events within your community, by showing residents having a good time at your events. This could possibly inspire others to join you next time or pique interest from prospects who are looking for a fun community culture. These events are super important if you do want to cultivate that community culture and really bring your community together and engage with them. So keep that in mind the next time you host an event. Take as many pictures as possible because having that stockpile is going to be huge down the road. Um, you know, think about a unique view, a hidden path, something maybe not everyone in your community has seen. I know when I was living in my very first apartment, I truly stayed in my little bubble. And I'm sure that there are many residents like that who haven't really explored the entire community. So as somebody who probably knows your community like the back of your hand, take some photos of some unseen places to see if you can get some people out of their bubble to meet new people. Maybe there is an elderly woman with a cute dog who walks around the neighborhood daily. She would be, a wonderful example of a friendly face that you could promote on your social media. Volunteer opportunities are also a really wonderful way to get involved with the community and build rapport with your residents. It will increase engagement on social media, and it also does something great for your neighborhoods with a win-win-win.
Yeah, and honestly, you don't have to be a professional photographer to do this. Everyone has a camera in their pocket these days. So feel free, if you feel like the opportunity has arisen, take out your smartphone and take a picture of these opportunities because they do make great content.
Exactly. And I know that there's probably a ton of reservation because, being a professional, you don't necessarily need to be a professional, but it will get easier the more that you do it. As a part of an on-site team, the more you're seen out of the office interacting within the community, residents will become more comfortable with you. And as you build that relationship, it'll become apparent in the authenticity of your feed. Residents will appear more candid and relaxed in your photos, and it'll elevate the look of your feed even more, as opposed to some of those posed stock images or those professional photos of empty spaces within your community. I think people really resonate with seeing real humans on their community social pages. Maybe they'll recognize a neighbor they had seen at the mailboxes but never had the opportunity to say hi to. This kind of authentic content can really do wonders, not only for your social presence, but it can help facilitate a stronger community. So if you want to take this a step further, we can look into trying user-generated content. User-generated content has so much untapped potential within the apartment communities. It's predicted to be one of the biggest incoming trends for marketing in 2023. So if you want to showcase authentic community culture, go to the source. By getting residents involved in curating your social feed, they'll feel way more connected and proud of the community that they call home. So some examples of your user-generated content you can see on the screen here. The biggest tip that I can give you is check your location tag on Instagram. You can see the first and third example here up in the top left-hand corner. These users tagged their apartment communities in these posts. That's free user-generated content for you to be able to repurpose. A couple of more examples could be, was there a beautiful sunset last night? Ask residents to submit their photos from different locations within the community. What did the sunset look like from their balcony last night? Again, unseen places within the community. Try to encourage your residents to get outside of their little bubble. But by far, the most popular user-generated content is all about pets. Who doesn't love to share a cute photo of their pet? And again, you can keep these for later and repurpose them. And we can repurpose them into things like community contests. Once you have enough submissions within your community for best photos, you can start producing contests. You can see this example on the left with the two adorable dogs had more than 100 likes on it because they were able to get that engagement with, again, a cute pet photo. User-generated content, interactive content like games and contests and quizzes are again predicted to be another major trend in social media marketing in 2023. So if you want to start increasing your engagement, getting more people on your social profiles, I would definitely recommend taking a look at some of this. Some other photo contests could include, Pet of the Month, holiday decorating contests. We are now getting into that time of year where everybody's going to be decorating their front porches for the holidays. Carving pumpkins, building gingerbread houses, all of these could be examples of user-generated content and contests within your community to get more people involved.
I absolutely love these. I particularly love this two faces on the left. But going off of what you were saying, I recently had a client ask me to make a post about one of those, how many pieces of candy are in the jar games that are absolutely perfect for October. The prize is amazing, so you can bet that whoever wins this will also want to share that news with their family and friends, as well as give me an opportunity later on to post about it after the contest. There's something going on around the holidays, and during this time, you might just find inspiration just in the changing of seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are coming up on the perfect time of year to just really start steamrolling some of those ideas and jotting as many down as you can. But I also think once we get past that January 1st mark, some of these creative sparks and these ideas might be a little bit harder to come by since there aren't holidays coming up around every corner. So, Amanda, through your process of creating all of these multifamily posts every week, how do you get around some of these creative writer's blocks if some of these ideas aren't flowing as quickly as they usually do?
It, honestly, the best thing that you can do is try to avoid it completely, and that can feel impossible. But something that's really important to me is keeping in a routine. I have this process of determining the number of kinds of posts that I'm writing about per month, whether that's a community feature, an event, an apartment amenity, or a lifestyle post. And then I'll research about these events, and once I have a set list of ideas in front of me, I expand the copy. Following that, I'll put together images, get approval, and then schedule them to post. But when you have a routine, your brain and your body are comfortable with this process, and that grunt work will fly by. But I do want to note that this can vary from person to person, so finding a flow that works for you is really crucial. And still, Lindsay, did you want to add something there?
No, I was just going to say, at least for me, I feel like creative blocks can come at the worst possible time. So for me, I like to take a step back, and I'm sure Amanda, you're going to talk about this a little bit as well. But I know, at least for me, if I just focus on something else for a moment, check off one thing off of my checklist, and get back to whatever creative block was holding me back before, it seems to flow so much better.
Yeah, I like to think that as kind of like pushing through the storm, where, you know, some content ideas are a little easier than others. So I take some time, write about some national holidays or amenities because those are pretty standard and don't vary too far. So that'll keep you productive and might keep you moving. But another idea is to check in some trending major publications that relate to apartment living. If I'm supposed to write 10 articles in a particular niche, just seeing what other people are writing about makes me feel less stuck. And a quick read can kind of lead into that inspiration about something related or not related. But obviously, don't copy anyone else's ideas. And then, if you're completely blocked, taking that, step back 5 minutes away from your laptop can help you see a bigger picture and give a new perspective. I think most clearly right before bed, and I know that this sounds completely weird and cliche, but sometimes I'll even jot down an idea later and pick it up. It actually works.
Yeah, I think taking a step
Um,
back is probably super easy with especially working in this industry, because the nice thing about working in our industry is there's always something to do instead. So if you do have to take that 5 minute break to step back, maybe you can focus on something else for a second and then come back, and maybe that will help cure your writer's block.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's just finding that process that works best for you. And once you have that down, you can kind of begin to think ahead. So when you have a set of ideas for a week or two in advance, and then when inspiration does strike you, you have another idea to add to your bucket. And before you know it, your social calendar will be full and you won't have to spend so much time sitting down to curate ideas. Just staying organized is just absolutely key here.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. Organization is, at least for my type A personality, is absolutely the biggest thing, when it comes to sustainability in some of these social media managements. One way we keep things organized here is by using that social calendar, which has been a huge game changer. There's a ton of different options like Buffer and Hootsuite, and even Canva has introduced a calendar function. These really help you stay organized. It's a great visual representation as to what you have scheduled, where days where your content is a little lighter, and really keeping things organized in a more visual way. These properties also help you schedule this content out, so it's kind of a seamless transition into all of this. Here at Respage, we use our own social calendar. We have a multifamily specific option, and obviously we know we're very biased, but the nice thing about this calendar, at least for me, is being able to quickly glance at a month's view and see what days or properties need attention. You can see with this example here, this example is actually showing 4 different properties and all of the social posts that they had scheduled for the month of September. So this makes it a super easy glance to see, which properties need attention, which days do and do not have social scheduled for that day, and where you need to focus your attention on. This also makes the scheduling process go by way faster. And Amanda, I don't know about you, but that's the worst part. I can fill out this calendar until it's overflowing, but actually going through the process of scheduling everything was always the worst for me.
Yeah, as a not type A person, that was a really hard transition for me, but I'm also a really visual learner and a visual worker. So getting to actually see something in front of me, if I notice that, oh, that like, there's no content going out for this property on this date, I can just click that day and post something. It's an incredible opportunity that just makes, it just one more step in that flow process for me. It's way nicer, especially when you're managing multiple properties.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that's a huge, huge benefit. And I'm sure it saves so much time for people who are managing multiple properties because you don't have to schedule each individual post for each individual property, which is really, really nice. And for those of you overseeing the content creation process, calendars can really help you identify content gaps, see where you need another post, and it makes it super easy to review, comment, and edit what's going out from your team. This is a very collaborative process. Social media is supposed to be social after all. So if you're busy, if your team is busy, calendars like this just help keep things organized and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. So that is it for our, our content portion of our webinar, just like a very quick recap of the things that we've learned so far. Just make sure you have a list of content ideas. We went through a few, so you got to see some real life examples of some multifamily content that wowed us. So keep a list for yourself, for the days where that content flow is not really working for you. Take an hour a week to collect fresh assets or try batch creating content so you're not spending an hour each day figuring out what you're going to post. Try to condense that time spent by batch creating and collecting a ton of assets at one time. Authentic and user-generated content is huge within the community and helps boost your engagement. So I definitely recommend looking into doing more of that for your social feeds. If you do hit that writer's block stage, try to push through or take a step back. Everybody knows there's a million things on your to-do list. Maybe crossing one of those items off and going back to that content creation process will help push you through that writer's block. And most importantly, finding a process that works best for you. My process maybe doesn't work for Amanda. Amanda's process probably doesn't work for me. So making sure that your process works for you and your team is only going to help you keep the social media management process more sustainable for your community and will help you guys grow not only within your social media engagement, but as a team as well. So we're going to move on to a quick Q&A. I see we've got some questions in our chat. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to submit them in the questions function. I believe it's a question mark with a little circle around it. So again, let's just hop right in. I guess the first question I'm seeing is how many times a week should I be posting? Amanda, you definitely create more of these. So can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I really like to think like at minimum, you should be posting 3 to 4 times per week. However, I think different platforms have different rules surrounding them and their algorithms. Like Facebook and Twitter should be updated daily, but Instagram feeds can be a little more spread out. But you can also post your Instagram story every day without that fear of algorithm retaliation. So 3 to 4 times a day or per week is great.
Yeah, but I also think 3 to 4 times a week is definitely a benchmark that you should strive to. But again, make sure that this process is right for your team. If you are a one-man band and you don't have a ton of time to devote to creating 3 to 4 posts a week, do whatever is sustainable for you and your team. And if you would like to increase, if you're seeing positive reaction from your community from some of the changes in your social media, then you can begin to increase. Once that process becomes faster and easier, you'll be able to maybe hit that benchmark of 3 to 4 weeks in no time. All right, let's grab another question. How many posts should I aim to create in a few hours? Ooh, this is a good one. Because again, this process is all about making social media management faster and more sustainable. So I guess Amanda, you were new to this process at one point, I'm sure, so can you just tell us a little bit about the evolution that you've seen from yourself and maybe where that benchmark should be for creating posts?
Yeah, yeah, I was just thinking back to when I first started, and it is definitely a process, and there is a learning curve to this. But if you're just getting started, I really want to say that 4 to 6 posts in an hour, a little over an hour, work. But there is no real benchmark here. It's whatever works for you, and once you kind of get rolling with this concept, I think that you could expand that to many more than 4 to 6 posts in an hour or two.
Yeah, I see we have another question here. Um, what tools help with speeding up social media?
Hmm.
So Amanda, I don't even know if I know this. Like, what kind of tools do you use when you put some of your posts together?
Well, you know, I am biased. I do use our social calendar. That definitely saves me loads of time. I also use Canva, but you mentioned that as well. Canva has some great tutorial videos that you can use, and it's a very seamless process of putting together really great graphics without having a background in it. And then otherwise, I use Google Docs, Sheets, all of those good things to help me keep me organized as well. How about you,
Yeah.
Lindsay?
I use Canva to create our posts and again our social calendar. But I remember when I first started, I had the most unorganized Google sheet that was just an absolute mess. So I that definitely drove me crazy. So having some more streamlined, scheduling tools and calendar tools has definitely helped, ease my OCD a little bit to get away from some of those unorganized calendars. Um, I see we have a couple questions about engagement. How do we get residents to engage in social media content? Um, what are some ways to get residents engaged with social media or events? I think this is probably a difficult question to answer just because based on our research, not a ton of people are not a ton of multifamily posts are going viral. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the world that we live in. Not many people are super loyal followers of their apartment complex, but the goal isn't to become an influencer. You shouldn't expect to get hundreds of likes on every post. And of course, except if it was that example of those two adorable dogs that got more than 100 likes. But, I think getting engagement kind of starts with trying to facilitate that community culture. If your residents are feeling more comfortable and having more fun within your community, I think they're going to engage more with your social media. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. If we kind of like look back to that example I first gave of your social media channel kind of as that storefront, your social media channels are your prospect's first impression of your community. It's like a pre-tour. And if a resident doesn't like the vibe of your social channels, they might not want to seek an in-person tour. We really focus on reputation management, not really about going viral. And just maintaining that, I think, is the best thing that you can possibly do.
Yeah, for sure. But talking about specific ways to get your residents engaged, maybe try some of those contests that we talked about. I think one of the examples that we had up on the screen was for a holiday decorating contest. Maybe your residents could win, a $25 to $50 gift card if they submit their own photos of their front porch decorating, their pets engagement. I'm sure people around the holidays would love to engage in a gingerbread contest or again, we are coming up on that time of year where these ideas will begin flowing and people are going to want to be involved in their community, especially around the holidays. So try different things to get your community involved when it comes to contests and some of this user generated content because as soon as they start seeing some of these more friendly faces on your feed, they see other people are getting involved, maybe that's going to inspire more people to get involved as well. Let's see if we've got another question here. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Let's see. Are your community posting platforms public or private? This is a really good question because we talked a little bit about resident privacy, but one thing to look at when it comes to your social media is, that, like Amanda said, this is about reputation management. So all of your community social media pages should be public. You want to make sure that if a prospect is searching you on Instagram, they're going to be able to see the content that you're putting out every day. So make sure all of that your platforms are public. But if you're ever showing any posts that were created by your residents, if you're taking photos of your residents, just make sure that you have permission and respect their privacy to make sure that it's okay if you post their image on your social pages.
Yeah, I do want to add that, I like to think that the first thing that people do when they're looking for an apartment complex is Google that you. So
Mhm.
if there's nothing to find, that's almost worse than if you have, a uh, poor
Mhm.
presence on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like you said, Amanda, this is about reputation management, and you again have to assume that prospects are going to be looking at your social media pages just as much as they'll be going to your website. In fact, I just read an article yesterday that said most prospects, when they search for something, don't even go to the individual website first. They'll go to the Google Business profile, they'll go to their Instagram handle or their social media profiles before they'll actually visit the apartment website, which I thought was super interesting. All right, let's see if we've got another question. Ooh, how do you suggest getting an on-site team to share the load of managing their pages? This is this is a really phenomenal question because I think a lot of times social media will just fall on the shoulders of one person, which might not be completely sustainable depending on the size of your team, how many times you would like to post each day. So I think having a solution kind of like our social calendar where everyone's able to contribute. So with the Respage social calendar, again, we're very biased, but there's a process in which you can comment, share, and discuss the post within your team. So you can really make this a collaborative effort when it comes to scheduling and posting to your social. So I think the best way to get your on-site team to share this load is to make it a collaborative effort however you can. So sharing that weight could maybe be difficult at first, but I think, again, once you get this process and you figure out what's right for your team and really lean on the strengths of different members of your team, it'll become maybe second nature at that point. Let's grab another question. Ooh, have any posts wowed or stuck out to you as unique? I think we posted it. We have a ton of examples here in our presentation of some real life social posts that we saw in our feed that really kind of wowed me. But one thing that we didn't touch on that I would love to talk about is partnerships with local businesses. Restaurants, sporting facilities, cafes, as an on-site team, you have the ability to reach out to some of these local businesses and see if you can get discounts or promotions for your residents. They're the business's marketing team, in addition to your leasing site marketing team, it's a good process to have that working relationship with things in your community. I recently saw somebody on our feed, a property had a local bar make a special sparkling cocktail for a resident happy hour. I remember my very first apartment provided me with a move-in coupon for a free pizza. So I didn't have to worry about dinner the day that I was ripping boxes open and moving into my first apartment. So things like that is definitely a way to cultivate that community, in addition to reaching out to others within your neighborhood and getting some of your residents maybe out of their comfort zone a little bit to try some of the local places around. Okay, so any other questions? I think that might be, what are recommendations you have for entertaining content? Okay, so I think this is a really good example where you can kind of think about how you interact on your social media. What are some videos or posts that have drawn you in? I think finding inspiration from others is a really good way to, again, get the ball rolling and that creative mindset going. So at least for me, I tend to bookmark posts that have engaged with me. If I'm just aimlessly scrolling on Instagram on my couch, I'll bookmark any post that makes me stop and scroll. And using that formula as finding inspiration and from other platforms and other profiles, I think can really help find entertaining content, because obviously that post grabbed you, so maybe that'll grab somebody else as well. Amanda, do you have anything to add there?
I was going to say that's a really great method of developing content, Lindsay.
Hmm.
I love that.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of want to go back to saying like, think of think of those things like you would have in a conversation with a resident, or it could be a friend either. Is there something cool going on in the area? Is there a particular business that you really like? And then think from the perspective of, if you're interested in it, maybe some of your residents would be as well. I don't think that's a real definitive answer there, but you know there is a benchmark of, if it is popularly liked, it's probably going to be popular with your residents as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like our last question is about Meta's business suite and some of and talking about login access for some of these social profiles, which is such a great point. So I guess kind of to get around some of the intricacies when it comes to the business suite, posting to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, maybe potentially TikTok down the road. All of these different platforms have um, so many unique aspects into their posting process, and not all of them communicate together. So I think that's where having a calendar function like the Respage social calendar, using Hootsuite, using Buffer, one of those other calendar options, is really, really going to help streamline this process. So for example, this question is saying, it's odd for everyone to be sharing login information for Instagram and Facebook, and the business suite doesn't provide multiple people to have access at once. So having a calendar function that also has a scheduling function, where you can just put one post in and shoot it out to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter all at once without having to have multiple people log in and out, is a huge time saver. So absolutely recommend looking into one of the solutions if you want to start posting more frequently, to kind of end that headache of having to share multiple login informations and things like that. That was a great question. All right. I think that was all the questions we had. This was so fun. Amanda, do you have anything else that you want to add?
No, I absolutely loved this. I'm glad that it was a really popular webinar, and I am so excited for everyone's incoming flood of social media content.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you want to reach out to Amanda or I, our email addresses are on the screen. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can also reach us at marketing@respage.com. And we will be sending a recording of this webinar to everybody's email. So if you have a friend that would love to hear some of this content but wasn't able to join us today, please feel free to email over that, or forward the email with this webinar recording. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you everyone. This was an incredible, incredible event.